Hello, welcome back. I'm Emrys. I'm here today thanks to the Rathman Library and the East Haddam Public Library and the Friends of the Library to do another mini mindfulness talk inspired by a book. And this is our third in this series. I've been trying to diversify our writers and also the types of books that we're reading. So we've been pulling inspiration from different genres. If you're enjoying these talks, we love to hear your feedback. We love to have you share these videos. And you're also welcome to reach out to me either through my Facebook page, which is Decadent Wellness, or my website, which is decadent-wellness.com. So today's book is Change Your Life Without Getting Out of Bed. It's actually called The Ultimate Nap Book, and then that's the subtitle I just read you. This is by Sark. You might recognize her work. She has made a lot of posters. She does artwork and books, and her full name is Susan Ariel Rainbow Kennedy, but she goes by Sark, so you might recognize her by that name. And this looks as if it's a children's book, but it's actually a book for adults. And I wanted to bring it into our group today because The Ultimate Nap Book, Change Your Life Without Getting Out of Bed, feels really relevant for this time that we're in when so many of us are being pulled to more activity, more commitments, more expectations. Some of those are good, some of those are not so good, but whatever is going on for you, you might need a little balance of remembering to rest. So if you know that you do not like to nap, please stay tuned. I'm going to talk about things besides napping. And one of the reasons that I'm so excited about this book, which was not new, it's from 1999. I've been referring to it for a long time. And by the way, if you'd like to look at a copy, we will have it available through the libraries, so you can request to pick it up either in person or curbside. But when I was originally studying mindfulness and meditation when I was a teenager, and then for many years after that, whenever I would have a conversation about meditation and mindfulness with other people who were interested in and practicing meditation and mindfulness, there was a lot of, let's say, lack of enthusiasm for considering napping to be in the same realm. Now, I'm not saying that those people were anti-nap, but in general, I felt like the perception was napping doesn't belong in a conversation about mindfulness and meditation. And that didn't feel very good to me because I felt like it really did in my world, in my experience. There really was a place for it. And so I was so happy when years later, I was graduating from a program, and one of our main commencement speaker was Deepak Chopra, with whom you may be familiar. Very famous for teaching meditation, for his own books. He runs a mindfulness program that they've run several times with Oprah, so you may have heard of him. And he talked about how sleep and napping can be part of our meditation and mindfulness practice, and I felt so validated. So I am here to bring you that validation if you need it, and also if this is a new concept for you, to talk a little bit about it. So let's start with an excerpt from this book. Let me find our page here, where Sark says, "We replenish and repair during naps. Even if you don't actually sleep, setting up for a nap provides an atmosphere of safety and kindness for the interior." And I'll skip ahead a little bit to where she says, "Rest adds strength to our souls." So this idea of safety and kindness for the interior has so much overlap with what we're really accomplishing in mindfulness and meditation practices. So I've touched on during other sessions how mindfulness and meditation practices can take many different forms. And so we should please not get discouraged if we try some forms and they don't work for us. So of course that goes for naps as well. But sometimes we feel, oh, I have to do this one technique that I read about this one place or that I heard about from this one source. And I'm trying to help us remember that there are many paths to this safety and kindness within ourselves. And that when we cultivate this safety and kindness within ourselves, we're actually building resilience for the things outside ourselves that don't always feel kind or don't always feel the most safe. So especially when we're in a time in our lives or in our culture, in the world, when we're moving outward more, we're coming from having been perhaps more retreated. Even if we have been leaving the house a lot, we probably haven't been connecting with as many people as we might through the remainder of this summer. This is such a great time to remember that we're going to encounter more things, more good things, more challenging things, all sorts of things, and we want that internal resilience to help us through everything we encounter. That internal resilience comes from building trust with ourselves, building relationship with ourselves, and by giving ourselves rest and retreat so that we're not always active and engaged and reaching out from ourselves, we achieve balance to be able to enjoy being human as much as we can, to be able to get up and go back into maybe a challenging situation, maybe a great situation. So our exercise for today is going to specifically focus on how you might use rest, if that's where you are in your practice, where you feel like, I need to see how rest fits into the bigger picture. However, I will say, as a side note, if you already are totally on board with rest, you're a big advocate, I love that for you, and I totally encourage that. I do not believe that we always have to be resting for a purpose, but for some of us, that's where we can start to feel like this makes sense in my life. So I'm going to speak to that today, knowing that some of you might already be totally comfortable with doing regular rest or napping. So our exercise is, what is a problem you have been trying to solve? So think of something, maybe you've been trying to solve it just today or this week or this month. Maybe it's a longer term challenge that you've been working with. Think of what is a problem you've been trying to solve. And then we're going to apply this approach of rest to that challenge. So you may have had this experience of, oh my gosh, I get all my best ideas in the shower, or I always figure things out when I'm on a walk, right? These times when we have essentially taken ourselves out of a concentrated trying to solve frame of mind, and we've opened ourselves up. We are shifting state into maybe feeling a little bit more open, a little bit more relaxed. So we're going to use the idea of a rest or a nap. Maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 10 minutes, maybe it's 20 minutes, as a way to disengage from solving a problem. And you may actually have already had this experience where when you set the problem down, you go to bed for the night, you wake up the next morning, you're like, oh, I know what I need to do. So there are many ways that clarity can come out of giving yourself this re-nourishing, this time to replenish, recharge, all these words, right? Like we're filling back up again. So one way that we sometimes get clarity around a challenge from applying rest is we realize, oh, there's a resource I haven't been using. I can ask so-and-so to help me, or I can look at such and such a text or a website, right? So there might be some other source that we can lean into. We can ask for help, essentially. Another way we sometimes get clarity from giving ourselves that interlude of not trying to solve the problem is pieces just sort of move around and click, and we suddenly see, oh, this is the way forward. I have a solution. I know what to do. And Other times we get an even, I think, sometimes more fun benefit from having given ourselves a time out, a good kind of time out, a reward kind of time out, where after resting, we kind of slowly come back toward the world and we realize, oh, that problem doesn't need to be solved. Like I could just let that go. It doesn't actually have to change. It's fine the way it is. Now, there's a big difference between trying to force ourselves to let something go and authentically coming to, from a restful perspective, oh, this doesn't need me. Yeah? So what we're trying to do in giving ourselves a safe, kind, internal environment, a space to replenish, is allow possibilities again, to get out of the intensity that we've been in of trying to solve a problem. So there are times in our lives when we might feel like, oh, I can't nap. Maybe our whole lives we're like, I'm not a napper, makes me too groggy. That's okay. Maybe you have the inspiration of an older relative, as many of us do, who would sit for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and say, I'm gonna rest my eyes. And they didn't have any intention of falling asleep. It was just maybe an after lunch ritual or a mid-afternoon thing, whenever it was that they felt like they needed a little recharge. You can incorporate something like that for yourself. Maybe you want to be inspired by another culture, by siestas or some other sort of break from the monotony of doing. So even if you're doing very different things, just the fact that you're doing is limiting you from accessing certain states within your own creativity, within your own energy and clarity. So allowing yourself this little bit of reset, remember, doesn't have to specifically include sleep, even though we're talking about naps. Naps can come in many different forms. And this small, playful book talks about many different ways that we might consider something a nap or be inspired by a nap or do something that isn't exactly sleeping, and how to give ourselves playful permission. So I hope that you find either this talk or this book inspirational for your own process, and it helps you move forward with a little less pressure and a little more balance. Now, if you're already doing a great job napping and resting, kudos to you. I want you to know that I see you and I encourage you, and you are not alone in understanding the power of rest. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, we love for you to share our videos with anyone you think might benefit or enjoy. And until I see you next, take care.